Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
And I'm Todd Pleasant.
I almost forgot what I say after Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast for like a split second. But hey, what's going on? Lots of mediocre stuff tonight, people.
So Dave, is that like one of those tests that you take? It's like man, woman, person, camera thing. You can't remember the next thing you're supposed to say in sequence.
I can imagine that.
Okay.
Yeah, we know who's a genius at that. He's the best at everything.
Stable.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk... Oh, God, there'll be spoilers, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? We're going to talk about Picard. It's finished for this season. We're going to talk about Moon Knight. It's finished for this season, maybe ever. I don't know. Talk about a couple other things. What else? I'm looking to what we do last week. It was all good last week.
Last week was all good stuff. Yeah, this week is
not that it's bad stuff. We're not saying anything's bad. Last week was pretty good though.
It was pretty good. It's. Let me ask you, how many times have you guys seen that episode?
Just the one so far.
You saw it. You saw it at the premiere, and that was
just the premiere. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to rewatch it.
I watched that show 3 times. I watched it in the premiere, and then I watched it twice since then. It's like
I want to watch it again. You know, it's funny.
I am blissful with that show.
I was eating dinner. Pam's still sick, so I was downstairs in the kitchen, and I'm like, you know what? I'm scrolling through the channels, and I'm like, remember the days when you could watch Star Trek at 6 o'clock on Channel 11? And I'm like, you want to know something? I have a Roku TV in my kitchen. I put on Operation Annihilate on Paramount Plus, and I watched that while I was eating dinner, just like the old days.
There you go.
Except, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to watch it on this small TV, which we used to watch it on a 10-inch black and white TV. The 32-inch color TV in the kitchen is light years ahead of that. It still seems small.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because because I've already seen the second episode. Maybe this week I'll rewatch the pilot.
Mm. So, Dave, do you watch like original series episodes on your gigantic wall of TV?
I don't think I have yet.
I tend to watch them like on a 12-inch iPad and stuff like that. I kind of don't want to see it really blown up big, just because.
Well, I watch it on my 75-inch TV, and it looks good.
And do you really? You don't see like all the.
No, because they cleaned them up, and I mean they're definitely HD.
They cleaned them up, but part of it is they like sharpened some things you don't want to see.
Well,
like,
yeah,
like
but
you can see like the last time I watched it on my meager 60-inch screen, I could see carpet edges and things like this.
Oh, coffee stains on the shirts.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember ever seeing it before.
To me, I'd rather see it that way and have it be really clear than watch it the way we used to watch it.
I did see strings on the flying amoebas today, for sure.
You can see that, but like where the bridge carpet comes under the consoles is not the cleanest. It's like not the cleanest cotton stuff, and
well, it's funny in this episode. Spock is pointing to the monitors above, like his station. Yep. Half the time, whatever's in there is all crinkled and folded because they didn't realize that they needed to worry about them seeing that. But it was.
Yeah.
I almost wish I was watching it with the old special effects because I'm like, the enhanced. It's clearly CG, but I think I'd rather see it.
One of the things where the
original
I appreciate
effects. Adding
ships in and things like that. That just like it was almost silly that we never saw certain things, but and I understand it is what it is, but yeah, it's only kind of like a middle ground, and when you get up to a certain point, you're seeing flaws that just can't be.
Well, and I remember reading or watching an interview or listening to an interview with the guys that did the restoration and the enhancements, and they purposely tried not to overdo it, but they also were doing it on such a meager budget for the time, and they used the technology they had. I mean, it is amazing how fast technology is moving. If they did the same thing with the same amount of money today, it would look twice as good. But that was already almost 10 years ago.
I really appreciate the ship shots and the fact that the Enterprise will fly over a planet now and not be a separate element from the planet because they couldn't overlap and things like that. it's good. It's and they did a good job with it. They didn't go crazy where like you're looking at it and it's like, oh, this totally doesn't fit. It was the changes were very subtle and appropriate. But
but
one of the things that I always
liked
was that the ship from Charlie X. They modeled the ship after a ship from the animated series. So it was like they were grasping for everything they could find. So
That's funny. Anyway, let's go random, even though that was random.
yes.
Barry, what do you got?
They announced, and I feel like this is coming up really fast, but they announced Cobra Kai Season 5 is going to be September 9th.
Yeah.
That's like, didn't the other season just end like a few months ago?
Yeah,
I thought
they're
I
doing
read June.
I think they're splitting this up. If you look at the timeline for that show, there's no way this is 5 years.
I don't know.
Why? Did they say it was 5 years?
No, I'm saying it's 5 seasons. It's not, it's
Well, I mean,
I just read
the first.
it is September. I don't know why.
September 9th. I mean, the first two seasons were on YouTube, and then they moved it to Netflix, I think. So,
Is this season 5 already? Yeah,
Season 5.
That makes no sense. That's
what I'm saying.
but didn't we just watch season 4 like a few months ago?
It was
Or around
December.
The holidays?
It
Yeah.
was December. So it'll be 9 months. I
guess
mean,
it's
it's
9
still
months,
only
but-
May.
Yeah, it
But-
just seemed fast to me.
Yeah.
It's a fun guilty pleasure show, mindless.
well, they're making up for everything else that's stretching that gap between seasons. So,
Yeah, I guess so.
like when Westworld comes back, will we remember anything?
Well, and honestly, and I hate to say it this way, but what else do any of these people have to do? It's not like they're all on 3 shows at the same time.
Hey, this is some of our best friends.
I know, we love those guys, but
Yeah.
How about you got?
There is a trailer for the Game of Thrones spin-off series, House of the Dragon, and I watched it, and I still don't care.
I have seen that there's a trailer. I've had it pop up in one of my feeds, and I have yet to watch it.
I watched
really
it
don't.
last night.
I'm like, I think this is going to crash and burn. I really do.
Oh, I don't.
You don't?
No, not at all.
You think,
And
people
not
are
because
gonna-
I'm personally interested, but I think there's a huge audience for it.
You think with all the other fantasy content that's out there, people are going to be like, "Oh, I'm ready to give them another shot at this." It also just seems so. Ugh. I don't know.
I guess we'll see. I think that there's a big audience for it. I think that because it's not tied to the books, they have a lot more freedom. I don't know. I have a feeling that it's in good hands too. So we'll see.
I just feel like it's one of those things that's like, it's over. It was over. It's done. I don't really want to know about it anymore.
And that's the Barry. Are you excited for it?
Personally, no. I watched the trailer, and there's a lot of names I recognize, like last names I recognize, but I don't know who any of these people are. And
I know probably 3 people that were crazy ass Game of Thrones, people, and they're indifferent. So it'd be interesting to see. It may catch on like wildfire. We will see. But at this point, it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess everybody's. I would suspect everybody's very much in a wait and see kind of mode.
I mean, I would say this, Todd. There's still people that watch The Walking Dead and all of its spin-offs.
But as you guys well know, significantly less than there were.
Yes.
And this was the biggest thing that was. And will it get a third of the audience? Will it get a quarter of the audience?
Is it on Max or is it on regular HBO?
I think it's going to be on Max.
Yeah. That makes it... In theory, it shouldn't matter, but there still aren't everyone who has HBO necessarily signed up for Max. But we'll see.
But I do think if you're a Game of Thrones fan and you have HBO, you'll figure out how to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are a lot of people who were Game of Thrones fans. I just think it's like Breaking Bad. I mean, it's great. I'll never go watch it again. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't even think it's that good. Because it fell apart at the end. So
Yes.
I don't even think it's like that.
I agree.
But we'll see.
Can I throw in one other thing that neither of you guys has?
Maybe we do and maybe we don't.
Do any of you have anything bicycle related?
Yeah.
That was actually my next topic.
Take it.
Okay, no, you by all means.
Bicycles have 2 wheels, everybody.
Okay.
Some have 3.
Okay.
That's a tricycle.
There is a exact reproduction of the Elliott BMX bike from E.T. being released in the fall. So the company that made the bike, Kuhara, is making a 40th anniversary edition of the Elliott's bike from E.T. Milk crate not included. But
they should have done it 35 years ago. If
you have longed to own that bike, which is actually among bike collectors, people actually like this bike. You now have another shot, and it's exactly the same bike with ET40 on it.
But shouldn't it come with the milk crate? I mean, shouldn't it be an exact replica?
Should come with the milk crate.
I feel like it should come with the milk crate, but I think stealing your own milk crate is probably part of it.
It's illegal to steal those milk crates.
It is.
But now
now they sell them
which is the screen accurate milk crate, and then it becomes a whole thing. They should have just included it.
The very regional thing.
Replica.
I think stealing the milk crate is part of the whole thing.
But you can't steal a 40-year-old milk crate.
The ad actually.
I have 40-year-old milk crates. Oh no, I did in my mother's house before I threw them away.
So, anyways,
I used to have my records. I used to have records in your milk crates, right?
I had my entire record collection in milk crates. I had a record collection.
It is interesting what people put in milk crates. I had a tenant that had the biggest record collection you could possibly imagine. I think he had 60 milk crates in a set full of records in a second-floor apartment, which made me very nervous. So
it's a lot of weight.
It was either milk crates or guys had cinder blocks with boards, and then another row of cinder blocks and boards, and the albums were in between.
And that's what this he had boards. He just had milk crates and boards.
Yeah.
And fortunately, no cinder blocks, because that would have
added even more weight.
I up until my mother moved 2 months ago, there were the milk crates I took to put my records in her basement. I guess we tossed them. Yeah. And they're all very regional. What was the dairy that was on your milk crates, Barry? Do you remember?
I do not.
Well, it was
Tuscan. I used to work in a deli, so I stole them from the deli.
Idle Knot.
Yep.
Wow. Mine were red Tuscan dairy.
Mine were red.
And the first couple that I stole, I scraped the name off just because I thought I would get in trouble.
The Idle Knot ones were bright yellow, so they were kind of hard to hide. They were smart about that.
Somebody was going to come looking for them, Dave, and you were going to be in big trouble if they found your albums in those milk crates.
For 10 years, I used a nylon postal mail bag as a laundry bag. That I think, you know how there's not even mailboxes anymore, but there was the blue mailbox, and then there's the green mailbox next to it.
Yep.
That's where they sort of would store bags of mail en route, and someone took them out of there, and I had one, and someone else had one, and I used it. Was a great laundry bag, very sturdy. So now I'm going to have the mail and the milk police after me.
That's right.
Well, and that story I don't think ever told on the podcast about that banner you got out of the
banner. Yep,
I never did. I think
you might actually at some point have done it.
Yeah, it's been 8 years. It's hard to remember anymore. But I remember that was one of those things you wouldn't talk about for the longest time.
Yeah, the banner police are still waiting outside.
The banner police are still waiting.
They get the mics. They're like, "Okay, roll."
I'm sure I must have talked about that. I don't know. I got a couple things. Ahsoka started filming today.
Yes.
Yep. That was
my
other one.
They had pictures from the set. Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, they had a picture of the back of somebody's chair with the Ahsoka logo on it, and Dave Filoni's hat hanging on on the chair. So,
Barry, what else you got?
That was the only other thing.
Todd, do you have anything else?
I had something to finish with, but yeah.
Oh, I have Quantum Leap is getting I don't know if it's a reboot. It's a sequel, I'm calling it. They call it a reboot. NBC picked it up to series, so it is definitely happening. And a guy named Raymond Lee is the lead. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He looks really familiar. But apparently he's digging into Dr. Beckett's whole process and Quantum Leap accelerator machine. So
that's why it's a sequel and not a reboot?
Well, they're saying reboot, but it does... it exists in the timeline of
it doesn't.
That's great.
Replace
I think
the
they
story.
should, and I think that I think they need to get Scott Bakula to do the Dean Stockwell part.
Oh, they totally should, but they're not, because he's got a pilot that's hoping to
Yeah.
be picked up by NBC also. But
Yeah.
that would be good if he at least guests on it. It could be guests as himself, because I don't really remember the end, but he kept going, right? He did never
Yep.
went back to Earth or anything, right?
Yep.
So
I was never
Even if they
huge
just
fan
did
of
the
that
handoff, even if they just did the handoff and had like him warn him not to do whatever, and he goes ahead and does it, or it's but I'm glad they're not like just straight MacGyvering it, where they like yep.
Let me reframe what I just said. Not to say that I wasn't a fan of it. I just never really watched it. So did you guys really enjoy it? Was
I
it
didn't.
good?
I watched it and it was fine. It wasn't always.
I watched
great.
it, and I don't think I'm not sure I made it through the end in original airing. I did watch it. I finished it in reruns. So
It's very much. Oh my god, a time travel show. Well, it's here. No, it's a show about something else. I mean, it was okay.
Right.
I
I remember
don't-
it being a little goofy from the few times I
it was
watched
definitely
it.
goofy, and
There were really good ones. There were some pretty bad ones, and there's a bunch of mediocre ones, I think.
the Oswald one was really interesting, and that was, I got to say, that was very daring for the time when they did that, and they had him basically leaping into Oswald's body, but not having total control. So he was like kind of stuttering in and out, and trying to move trying to change events, and it turns out that Jackie Kennedy had died in the original storyline, in the original timeline, and he changed that. So, but that was the thing he changed. But it was very different and very interesting, and like I said, and much more serious than anything else they'd previously done. So,
Yeah. Todd, you got what do you got?
yeah, I just wanted to end random instead of necessarily making this a last thought. George Perez passed away this week, and last week we talked about Neil Adams. It's like way too soon to be talking about somebody else, particularly someone who's only 67 years old. He had pancreatic cancer. It was diagnosed in the fall, but just an amazing impact on the comic industry. In the late 70s, in the 80s, he put his stamp on so many things, and it's if there's anything that you associate with, I mean, a lot of people associate Wonder Woman because he really brought the kind of Greek mythology roots back into Wonder Woman and changed that in a way that's persisted today. But like, nobody could put characters into a panel the way George Perez could. I mean, he could do a page with 300 people on it, and you could pick out every single person in the page, and that's why he did. He's one of the things he's most famous for are the big crossover events like Infinity Gauntlet and of course Crisis on Infinite Earths, and probably. I mean, some of his best work was the Titans.
That's when
Teen
I was
Titans
reading
in the
Titans.
80s. When that was under his pencil. That was the best selling book that DC had at the time. And I originally found him on Avengers, and it's just his version of the Beast is my absolute favorite. And he did a lot of work with Marv Wolfman. And some of their stuff together was just great. I mentioned before, I boiled down my comics this year. I sold most of my comics. I'm really down to 3 short boxes, but in those 3 short boxes, I have 4 George Perez runs. I have a Black Widow run from Marvel Fanfare, which is great and very underrated. I do have the Titans, the Judas Contract run. I have Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I've got an early Avengers run that he did, which was just terrific and very distinctive style. Really terrific. one of these people that everyone who worked with him just said great things about him. And I met him only just once briefly. I have a sketch that I cannot find that he did of Wonder Girl for me, probably in the early 90s. And he retired in 2019 officially. He's been sick for a while from what people have said. And it's very sad. Again, relatively young man. I mean, that's not...
much younger than I thought he was. And I met him once, and I had a sketch for... I was into Warlock at the time, and I asked him to draw Warlock. And here's the thing that... When I read his age, I was like, wait a second, how could he be 67? Because here's this sketch I have. Nothing. Yep. I mean, this is from 1977. So he was 20.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He started very, very young. And, I mean, some of the stuff that, again, the stuff that he did in the 80s was absolutely incredible. And
I wonder if I knew who he was. Why would I have gotten his sketch? But I know I knew who he was, but I was 12, and he must have been 22. Yeah. So it's crazy.
No, that's great.
I paid $2 for this.
I paid substantially more. Expo. I paid substantially more, and that's why it's driving me crazy. I can't find this thing. But So anyways, like I said, a great man, huge impact on the industry, and we lost another giant far too soon. So I think a lot of these guys are in an age range, though. Again, he's very young, but it's kind of like the music legends that we all admire.
I was actually just thinking the same thing. It's in all of the fields of entertainment or whatever, sports or whatever it is, the people that we all looked up to as kids, that now that we're getting to the age we're getting to, they're all
exactly. They're
at that age where we're starting to lose them all.
Yeah, I would have thought he was at least 10 years older. So
So, anyways, but again, George Perez and like I said, super talent and left a huge legacy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, without a goofy segue, I will make a segue to Fanboy. So I would imagine Troy, who owns Fanboy, and if you ever go there, talk to him about it. He's a huge comic art collector. In fact, every time he's exhibiting at shows, he always gets artists to do. I would imagine, I'd love to know what George Perez pieces he has, because I imagine
I would not be surprised if he does.
I'm sure he does. And he's been working on a bunch of pieces that are like every artist has contributed a character to these massive pieces that he's been working on.
We need to get Troy on sometime and talk about that, because it's very unique, it's very cool, and it's something
like these massive pieces he'll have. Hey, you draw a Superman here, and you draw Wonder Woman here.
He's got two essentially like murals that are villains at one and heroes in the other, and he said different artists contribute to it over the years, and they're, I think they may be done, but they're incredibly amazing. And just think about now, like Barry, you're toting around your Star Wars, but you toted around your Star Wars poster for years, and those signatures, a lot of those signatures were irreplaceable. But again, with this thing, this is huge, and he's got artists on there that you'll never be able to get again, and for some of the same reasons. But it'd be a cool thing to talk to him about at some point.
Yeah. So he is definitely an art fan. So I know he's probably very much a fan of George Perez as well. But check him out. All kinds of stuff. There's a Iron Studios Mando and Grogu statue. You know the thing, we're not statue collectors too much, and we all have some. There's a couple. You can get a statue for every price range. That's what's cool about statues, and even the less expensive ones are. The quality has gone up drastically.
Really well
it used to. Maybe I'm wrong, but it used to be where the really expensive ones were the good. But some of these, I have a couple of Batman and Catwoman and stuff. Not super expensive. The quality is amazing. So check those.
I've got a number of the Iron Studio stuff, and I really like it. And it's particularly in the Batman vein, and they just do a super job. And this art scale. This is prime scale, but the art scale ones are very manageable too.
Yeah. And so check out a statue if you haven't. They have all kinds, plus Pops and Sideshow and Hot Toys and Kotobukis and everything. So check them out, fanboycollectibles.com. Check them out at their store in Newtown, Connecticut. Ask Troy about his art collection. I'm sure he'd love to tell you about it. and tell them the regular Joe sent you. Okay. So last week we talked about, I'm going back, Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. We probably spent 10 plus minutes on it. The Avatar 2 trailer is out, and as a proportional, I'm putting the clock at 60 seconds to talk about it. So, what does anyone want to say?
We all watched it. It looks like Avatar, for sure.
I don't want to be a jerk because I did enjoy the movie. I certainly enjoy the ride. I just don't care. I just have no interest in going back there.
This is I saw this on the big screen, and because I saw Doctor Strange this weekend, which I'm not talking about at all, but I did see this Avatar trailer in the big screen. That was the debut of it, and I was like, meh. I mean, Avatar was lightning in a bottle. It was a moment. I almost want to like try hard not to compare it to like The Matrix in some ways, where I just don't know if they're going to capture the magic that they had. It wasn't a complex story, as I've said many times. It was Dances with Wolves with Aliens. Okay, it's a pretty known story. They just presented it it was really the first time we saw the full implementation of 3D as it should be, fully realized, and I think that's what was amazing. I do not think it's the movie in of itself. I can't see this carrying 5 sequels or whatever they're planning. And this thing, I look at this thing and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I watched it. It's a minute and a half long. The scenes that I actually enjoyed the most were the ones where they had either the humans or the spaceships or something other than the blue creatures flying around on
It's like
birds.
a cartoon when it's there.
I mean, and like I think we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on the air or off the air, but supposedly their big claim to fame here is they're saying that they've mastered the art of like underwater effects. But
yeah.
No one cares.
Enough? Yeah, I mean,
effects are at the point, CGI is at the point where your average moviegoer does not know one thing from another, and that's the way it should be.
I also feel like if I'm going to see this, which I probably will, I really need to rewatch the first one because it's been 10 years since I've seen it, and I don't remember all of it. And I'm not sure I need to, but I feel compelled that I probably should. And I don't really feel like doing it.
I purposefully have not rewatched the first movie because I saw it in 3D, and I saw a good in a good 3D theater, and it was great, and that's kind of what I want left in my head. And I will say that movie was an experience. Okay, if you saw it in a good 3D theater, it was an experience. I don't know that they can recreate that.
I saw it in theaters twice, and I own hundreds of movies. I've bought movies that I've bought on DVD, then replaced them on Blu-ray, then replaced them on 4K. I've never bought a copy of Avatar.
Right, I think because is it that same
Avatar.
reason though? Because
I've just never felt compelled to see it again.
It's almost, but isn't it in your head almost more like a ride than a movie?
I saw it twice in the theater, and I enjoyed it both times, and just never felt like I needed to sit through it again.
And that's what I'm saying. Because I don't think it's the story. I don't think the story's compelling. I think it's a visual experience, and that's what was so novel.
But what's
about
weird
it.
is I will certainly rewatch movies over and over and over again. My parents were in town this weekend, and I sat with them, and we watched Forrest Gump on cable with commercials. And I sat there and watched it. And I had, we were talking or whatever, we were visiting, so it was... But, I'll rewatch... I've probably seen Forrest Gump 10 times. I don't feel the need to see Avatar again.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it's a different kind of thing. I think it's kind of in a bubble.
I think my main TV is a 3D TV. I'm gonna buy a 3D Blu-ray player. I'm gonna buy the goggles, and I'm gonna buy a copy in 3D and watch it.
I have a 3D Blu-ray player.
You're totally not doing any of that.
100,000% not doing that.
Yeah.
All right.
I still have a 3D TV, but I'm not using it. So.
Yeah. And again, what I guess this is his family now, and I don't know.
Interestingly, like you said about Game of Thrones, and I think that the Game of Thrones audience is still much larger than the Avatar audience, but I will be curious to see what this actually does. This, to me, is a total social experiment more than anything.
Yeah.
Will people care?
Cameron, I wish he would do something different. like when he does stuff, it has potential to be great. Like
if he wanted to do underwater, he could have done the Abyss too. I would have been so much happier.
And I will say this is 5 years too late.
It's absolutely 5.
Yeah.
It's more than 5 years too late.
No, but I'm saying 5 years was 5 years on the outside too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So 2 shows
Flip
finished.
a coin. Moon Knight or Picard? Which one do you want to talk about first?
Todd, I'll let you choose.
Let's do Picard first.
Okay.
Yeah, it was okay. It was fine. All right, Moon Knight now?
Yeah. So
It ended as it began. Like it was enjoyable. There were things about it I liked, but not like it didn't blow me away. None of it blew me away.
I think if you had maybe had the first couple, lost a couple in the middle, and then maybe had last week's in this one, I'm like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. There's a lot of there's a couple drags. Certainly that
was
one
a couple
that was useless.
I think part of the reason for a big part of this show exists is nostalgia, and I didn't feel nostalgic about a lot of this stuff, and I will say they did some good continuity stuff in this, because like one of the things that like I actually was gonna call them out on Picard's mother dying when Picard was a child, because we saw Picard have a vision of his elderly mother, in one of the original episodes, and I remembered that, and then he referenced that, which I thought was really good. He said, I've had, I at one point, had a dream and imagined her as an elderly woman, and I was like, okay, good, you at least caught that.
There was a lot of like little nods like that, and call it fan service, call it whatever, but
that whole part of was that of any use? The chateau and the mother, like, did that serve any purpose?
No, that's what I'm saying. But at least they were.
No, I get that. I'm just saying.
Understood that
I don't think they needed that story element at all.
Okay, so 2 of the things I like the tie-in with Gary Sevens.
I did like that.
Okay, I like that because that was just left out there years ago. I will say, I do kind of like the tying it in with Wesley, because they never explain what happened to Wesley and that he joined these travelers. Well, the travelers and the watchers are the same thing. Wesley had to take like a physics and a philosophy quiz in order to join. Here they just ask you. It's good.
All right, so since you brought up Wesley, I will say this. If you're going to bring Wesley Crusher back, he's got to shave. He's got to look more like what he looked like. He looked like Will Wheaton. And he looked like Will Wheaton just rolled off the Big Bang Theory set for all the
I think he should have had him in a different outfit. He literally wore his street clothes. I could deal with the beard.
It was like, I looked at him and I said, oh, look, it's Will Wheaton. I didn't think, oh, it's Wesley Crusher.
Right, but for me, that's because he's done so many guest appearances on Big Bang Theory looking exactly like he looked there.
Until he said he was Wesley Crusher, I assumed he was playing a different character. Okay. So, but I think it's cool that they tied those threads together. That could have been done better, but maybe he just didn't want to shave.
But what was it about her that they felt she would make a good traveler?
And that is
because we got nothing to tell us.
Is this everybody gets a trophy? It's just like we need to show everybody, all the cast from last season have a happy ending, because this woman isn't, but she's proxy for the character. The other character, and then the guy who's dead isn't really dead, because of course he is not really dead, because they went back to before he died anyways, but they had to show that because audiences are stupid and say, oh look, he's alive, even though he should obviously be alive. I mean, and again, Rio staying behind, boy, that was telegraphed.
Oh my
we
God,
said that
you knew that as soon as he met that
ago.
doctor.
But they're so big on not making changes to the future, but everybody was cool with him staying behind.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, too, and as they said, this is a Hispanic male who's already been arrested once for not having papers. So I don't know as I'd be eager to stay in that time. The other thing was, I feel like they could have done something better with the Q thing. So Q's dying. He really just wants a hug. This is all about, he has no friends. you know,
I didn't mind that so much. That to me wasn't the
that
biggest.
That seems like Q. Q's a nutball. I get it.
But I was thinking, okay, so I'm thinking this through. And I'm thinking, how do you tie this into the entire arc of Q? Okay? And I was thinking, what if Q has been dying since the first time since before Encounter at Farpoint? Okay? Because in his lifespan, right? Time is different. Okay? Humans are fragile. They have very limited lifespans. Okay? Basically, he has glommed onto Picard to learn how to die. Okay? To embrace this with dignity and something like that. I mean, there has to be a way of.
I don't know. I think
other than it's just like okay.
I think it was fine.
Friends, so I just put you through hell so that I could get a hug.
My biggest problem with the whole thing, and I texted you about this over the weekend, was they basically neutered the Borg, which is like the best villain that they've had, certainly in all of Next Generation, maybe in all of Star Trek, and now they're the kinder, gentler, we want to help Borg.
They had pretty much established in this timeline the Borg have been utterly destroyed. So this is the remnants of the right because the last
utterly
season,
destroyed,
but Barry
except the Queen was still there. They had the Queen, so she could have rebuilt the Borg and made them a threat in the future again.
But was the Borg? So if from the past to the present, if it's Girardi being the Borg Queen. Did all the other Borg stuff happen?
Okay, so so I've been thinking about this since I watched this. More than one Borg Queen. Okay, we did not see this Borg Queen. We did not see the original Borg Queen until the other timeline. Okay, so the Borg Queen that came on board the ship, okay, at the beginning of this series was Girardi. Was Agnes, and I do think there's two Borg Queens. There's more than one Borg Queen, so she has been.
I could okay, all right. I'll give you that.
You can reconcile that. It's not very opaque, but it can be done, and she has been working since those days. Okay, since even pre-First Contact. Okay, reshaping the Borg. So that when the Borg were down and out and defeated, she could change the direction of the Borg, which is what they just did. And the Borg were effectively, as we saw in last season, at this point in time, effectively defeated by the combined forces of the Federation and the Romulans. So
I also and I won't dwell on this point, but I just didn't see the 7 and 9 and Rafi thing coming at all.
Oh God, no! I mean,
so that came out of left field.
Yeah.
Wait, no, they did that last season.
Did they?
Oh, at the end of last season,
at the last episode, the last shot
really
is 7 holding Raffi's hand, and at the time we said, like, wait a second,
where did this come from?
Where does this come from?
I don't even remember that.
The two of these people could not possibly have less chemistry. Okay, I mean, it's just like okay.
I feel like that's a remnant of the Discovery people trying to make something.
It's like
it makes no sense.
We needed representation, so now we've checked that box, and
yeah, that was stupid. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
but
I don't mean it in any way from that perspective. I just didn't see it coming.
Unnecessary to the characters.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's okay when you don't see something coming, and it's like you go, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm like, oh,
really? We definitely talked about it.
I just don't remember.
We totally talked about it.
Yeah.
Because it was the same thing. Like, what the hell is that? What use does that serve?
Right.
And then honestly, it almost cheapens, gay people or whatever. You got to sort of shoehorn
two characters who canonically are straight and just say, "Oh, they're a couple now, so we can do this."
Just like making Sulu gay in the third Star Trek.
Exactly. They look somewhat awkward together, but we can feel like we've done this.
How about it's just a part you're shoehorning it in to check a box, and it's stupid.
If Seven came out and told you she'd been in love with Janeway since forever, okay, I could have almost bought that, okay? But this is just like,
you were dating. Hey, maybe you like all kinds of people. You were dating
It's
Chakotay
like,
at one point, right?
That's and sort of the Doctor. So
The Doctor?
what's that? Yeah, they did like practice dating and stuff.
Yeah, didn't he teach her how to kiss or something like that?
Yes,
I
that's what I'm
felt.
saying.
I
It was just
think
like,
didn't Paris get something off of her too?
yeah, well,
Pre-Balana, I believe he did. Anyway, shoehorned in for no purpose. Yeah. Anyway,
It'll be interesting to me to see which characters, if any, stay on the board for season 3, other than the next gen cast.
I'm curious about that. Seven
so
should have her
Allison Pill
own
has already
series.
said she's out. She's not filming. She didn't film season 3.
Which makes sense because, she's off doing Borg Queen things.
Rios is gone.
Yep.
I think we could potentially see a 7 appearance, but I don't see a reason why. I think the rest of them are just scattered to the wind at this point.
I'm wondering if they're gearing up. Well, are they still talking about doing Section 31? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, they actually, a couple weeks ago, they were saying it's still a thing. And
does anyone care or remember? I would like to see a 7 show. I think it's an interesting character. There's a lot you could do with that.
Well, and she's a ranger, right? She's out doing ranger things.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Or
Put her on a ship. Make her a captain.
Hey, someone's got to take over the Stargazer.
Anyway, so I feel like if they cut this down to, 10 episodes or 9?
6.
I don't know. Huh?
6. Should be 6.
If it was 6 and a tight 6, assignment Earth thing, totally lose the Picard's mother deal.
Okay, I'm just going to say this. And then Picard goes back to the Romulan woman, okay, after like all of this revelation, all this whatever, and like he can't like plant one on her? Come on.
Well, I thought that was going to be the last thing. I wonder.
I thought so too.
And is
like,
it the same woman? Or it's not the same
kiss
woman?
Her, okay?
It's just
it's like you
Yeah.
rejected her. It's like you spent the whole of the 20th century pining for her, and now you come back and it's like oh well, yeah, I'd like to hang around a bit.
And I couldn't even follow. So the Watcher woman took that form so that he would recognize.
No, the Watcher woman was possibly an ancestor of hers.
Okay.
Who wasn't a Romulan, even though at one point when she's dying, her
No,
ears
she was a
are
Romulan.
pointy.
She was a
You missed
Romulan.
that. She
Yeah.
was using it like an illusion thing to hide her ears.
At
So,
one
I
point,
did
she
see
showed
that,
Picard
but-
her real ears.
yeah,
But
yeah,
Whatever. All right, moving on.
yeah.
It's okay.
It is
I'll
good
watch
that they
season 3. I hope
finally
it's
at least
better.
got rid of her Irish accent because that was very confusing to me.
I think she's cute
Oh, I think so too.
and older than all of us, which I like.
61. good for her.
She's an attractive
And
woman.
I will say immortal because, like I said, seriously,
If you told me she was 42, I'd be like, yeah, 42.
I
Very
thought it
good
was
looking woman.
confusing her with a character from a movie from 20 years ago, and she looks exactly the way she looked 20 years ago.
Yeah,
So, no.
for her. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'll watch. I feel like it's the whole cast. Are they going to shoehorn all kinds of nonsense in there? And what are they doing with Brett Spiner? There's no way, looking at him as himself, there's no way he gets back into that data makeup. It's just not possible.
They would have to do some de-aging and de-sizing.
I wish they would do that to me. A little de-aging, a little
Little
desizing.
desizing.
I mean,
Yeah. That's the last
do you
thing.
think the con folder
Yeah,
plays
that's
into
what
season
they say.
3 at all, or is that just a
No.
red herring?
That's just not a red herring. Just like they wanted to tie as many things as possible in together.
That they were grabbing from. And it's interesting, the folder was from the 90s, where that's the timeline that they talked about in Space Seed.
So in this adjusted timeline, basically, Khan was genetically engineered in the 90s and then is coming to age after this.
But
And he
does that
probably
then play
worked on
into Strange New Worlds in any way with Khan's
I
descendant?
hope not.
Yeah. It's
Isn't there a girl who's Khan?
Yes.
Yeah,
but
the
again,
security officer.
She could also be from the same family, but not necessarily be. There's a connection there, but not.
Not a homicidal maniac looking to take over.
Who knows? We'll have to see.
Well, she's the last survivor of her family that were all eaten by Gorn, if you remember correctly.
They were all.
But Oh, so they have, but they haven't
That's
met.
funny to you, Barry? Come on, okay?
They haven't
I'm
met
sorry.
Khan yet.
Many of
so,
my family
okay.
members have been eating my Gorn too. Okay, I'm offended by your you thinking that's funny. So, or used as birth sacks. So
Those freaking Gorn, they're jerks.
Those Gorn, those crazy
Gorns
Gorns.
are dicks. Okay.
All right, on to Moon
Okay,
Knight.
Moon Knight.
Todd's wearing the T-shirt, so we know Todd liked Moon Knight.
I just want to know where the last 20 minutes is of this episode, because I'm like, wait a second, this is done already?
I don't know how they set up those 5 episodes and wrapped it up in 45 minutes like that.
I have no idea.
And so, I don't think we talked about this last week. Correct me if we did. Disney Plus tweeted something out last week saying, catch the series finale of Moon Knight, and 20 minutes later they changed the tweet to say series finale, a season
finale.
So are we getting another season? Was this the end of it? They sort of left it open.
It didn't feel like it was.
No, it did not feel like it was.
If you read, I'll tell you what I believe is going on right now. If you read everything this director is saying, and this director is talking to anyone who will talk to him, he wants another season. I think Oscar Isaac signed for 1 season and is going to have to be convinced. And I think that's what is going on right now. Is he's not yet committed to a second season, and he's already said that the story would have to be there and it would have to be something that's interesting to him. And I think they painted themselves into a corner with that.
Or do they pick this storyline up in a group movie, like in the next Avengers style?
And that may be what he's got in
together
mind.
movie.
Maybe
that's the way you get Oscar Isaac to do it, is say, all right, it's not commitment to do another series, but you're going to be a character in the next team up movie.
Right. To do that, though, I think they need another season with him. They need him doing something.
I don't think people got what the hell's going on.
This was an extended sort of origin thing, but not. And so here's my... Picard needed to be 6 episodes. This needed to be 8 or 10.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Or end it with an hour and 20-minute movie or something.
What I'm saying.
Or,
and it's
have some more Moon Knight in Moon Knight.
And that is exactly what Moon Knight was missing, was more Moon Knight. And because
less hippos and alligators, more Moon Knight.
Very cool. Okay. The problem is, this is like the Spider-Man problem. It's like Tobey Maguire doesn't want to be in a mask all the time. Okay. And are you really acting when you're mostly CGI? So they needed to offset that. They needed to do the human drama parts of it, but they needed more Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I think that the Moon Knight character and the Mr. Knight character, I think, were interesting. I think the way they did them and the way they split them into the 2 different aspects of his character, I thought that was clever. I like what they did with it. They didn't do enough with it. The other thing is, and this is my biggest gripe, is Moon Knight goes back to the 70s. Okay, they leaned heavy into the last maybe decade, 12 years of Moon Knight, where all of this multiple personality stuff and all that was layered onto what we already knew. Okay, he was kind of a Batman archetype, and then he became this very, very kind of brutal vigilante, and then from there he kind of went through this whole kind of breaking down and rebuilding himself thing, which is still going on in the comics. That is all they worked on. And I think I would have liked to have seen him as a vigilante. I would like to have seen him, taking on, like, I don't know, what groups of weapons peddlers or whatever, whatever it was like that he sees as a threat, but it was just self-discovery. It was just trying to get all the pegs in the right holes, and they're just, again, I like what they did with the character. I like the costumes. I like all the kind of stuff. It's just there just needed to be more of that.
It was
I have
too
a question
much.
that I should know the answer to, but I honestly didn't follow it. Which god did Layla become an avatar for? Because all of a sudden she was an Egyptian superhero, and I didn't know who she was working with.
the woman that died, I cannot think of the name, but anyways, the character that she basically is the Scarlet Scarab, which they probably won't be saying because it's like you got two Scarlet characters. But I actually thought that was cool. I kind of thought that was interesting, and I thought the two of them together doing something,
that was good. Yeah.
No, it was. But it seemed like she all of a sudden.
So someone who died in the
woman that
side the pyramid
had helped him previously, who was the Avatar. That was her.
Got it.
Thing. But the that scene that was 5 minutes should have been 8 or more, and because that was meant to be like the final, the climactic battle, and it was just boom, okay, it's done.
It's and the thing that only they are going to know the numbers. You don't know who's watched this, who hasn't watched it, but I don't think the average Marvel series fan, the people who loved Hawkeye, or even, I don't think they're into this. I think it's confusing. It's just a little all over the place.
I think the idea with this was cutting ties with the rest of the stuff and having something that people that had no orientation to these characters could watch, because there's just not a whole lot of people that know Moon Knight.
I don't think this helped their case, though.
That's where I'm going, Dave. I'm saying they didn't do enough of that. Okay,
it's too confusing. It's too, and I get it.
And it wasn't really an origin, because it started with him already kind of being the character.
Right.
If it was going to be an origin, I might have actually been able to follow it a little better. And the weird thing for me is I can't say I didn't enjoy it on some level. I just never really fully understood what the hell I was watching.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
This is one of the best made things that they've done. Okay, in terms of production value, in terms of how they filmed it and all this kind of stuff. It just, I think there was a very unique artistic vision in here that does not translate to this material as well as, or this genre as well as they hoped. They went with an Egyptian director because they wanted to be faithful to the origins of this. Well, the origins of this were two guys from New York and New Jersey who wrote this thing. Okay, it's like that's all kind of tied back in together.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: in that final battle, there was one shot that I just thought was unbelievable, where you've got the battle going on in the foreground, and in the background you've got the giant two creatures fighting each other. That was like right out of a comic book splash page, which I thought was awesome. But
we needed more of that. And the funny thing, you look at this and you look at Picard. The two things that absolutely weren't needed and made it even more confusing are you bring in a psychiatrist and you relive something. I felt like while them reconciling the two personalities on the boat was fine, the whole thing in the psych ward with the dude, like, why do we need that? Why does everyone want to be... We're going to have this real mental thing going on. Like, that is not needed.
That is core to who this character is right now. It is not to who Picard is right now.
But it's confusing, and you have the same dude who's the bad guy. Like it's just too much.
Well, and the fact that you bring it back there after you've reconciled the characters, even just for one more scene, to me was like, didn't need it.
Are you talking about the post-credit thing?
No, I'm talking about the scene where he comes back right after the two of them kind of rejoin. And then they go back into that office and he sees the bloody footsteps and all. Like, you didn't even need any of that. They had joined back together. Don't go back to the psych ward.
The mental ward whole thing is just confusing.
I was convinced all of that medical ward stuff was in his head, just shuffling things and sorting things out. I do not know how that factors into the
final scene. Yeah, makes kind of no sense.
When the third identity, who'd been teased throughout the series, there's 3 or 4 gaps that are not explainable by either of the two dominant personalities.
Because we were led to believe it was Mark Spector in the beginning. It obviously was not.
It wasn't.
Right.
And then this guy shows up for some reason driving Phil Spector's limousine. No. But anyways, yeah. So
I thought that was a little interesting. Obviously, there's a third personality spoilers, that is worse than both of them, and it's responsible for doing some stuff. And that was interesting. That also leads me to believe, like, okay, you kind of need, if you're going to throw that out there, you need another season to figure out what's going on.
Right, and they showed that sarcophagus at one point rattling. Like,
yes,
we knew there was another personality
they
in there.
They pointed to Jake Lockley a whole number of different ways. So, in the comics, Stephen Grant is like Bruce Wayne. He's like this millionaire philanthropist, and he's the complete opposite of Mark Spector, who is a mercenary. Okay, Jake Lockley is kind of the street level persona. He's a cab driver. Okay, but the guy that got his hands dirty was Mark Spector. So this is interesting how they've kind of shifted things around, and you know, I don't know. Like I said, I would be much happier with this right now if we knew a second season was coming, because this could all go somewhere. If we went through this and they don't do anything more with this, we spent a lot of time building up for something that's not anything.
Yeah, we just didn't get enough of. I want to see a new interesting superhero. We just didn't get that.
Right. Well, and they gave us a good explanation for why there was Mark and Steven, you know, but we have no explanation for why there's a Jake character.
Yeah.
Well, it's a multiple person. I get that.
Well, but it's not just he created the Steven personality.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because he needed him.
But the same thing, though, is Barry is at some point he needed a Jake Lockley. Okay? And in this, he knows what the circumstances were that created Mark Spector. He does not know what the circumstances were yet with that. And like I said, but I do not want 6 episodes explaining where Jake Lockley came from. I want to see, you know, I want to see him on the street doing superhero things. One of the things that people have had some complaints about with this is he's got a very non-specific kind of like power set, okay? And that over the years has been explained or not really explained by basically Khonshu gives him the powers that he wants him to have, okay, at any given time. So the flying thing and the, you know, seemingly superhuman strength and all that kind of stuff, he is really just a vessel for this god. And so he doesn't even fully understand what his capabilities are. I don't have a problem with that. I just feel like this could have been a lot more straightforward. And I like I said, I just wish there would have been a lot more Moon Knight in Moon Knight. So,
yeah.
That said, I have pre-ordered a statue, 3 action figures, and a Moon Blade thing.
The Moon Blade thing. That's it. Who's selling that?
The Moon Blade thing, I think, was through GameStop. I think it's the life size human, 1/1 prop. There's a set with the blade and the scarab. So I pre-ordered that. It's coming out in July. And yeah.
I feel similar to it the way I did to Picard. Like, it was okay. I enjoyed parts of it, but I would have really, I kind of wanted to love it, and I just couldn't get there. Maria didn't like it really at all.
In the context of the other series, and I'm thinking, like, WandaVision was like, this is probably closest to WandaVision, and how I came out of it was like, that is not where I thought where this is going, and I'm not sure this is what I wanted, and I don't know where they go from here. Whereas Loki was like, what? That's it? That's what they're doing?
I feel it's more
Falcon
like
and
Loki
Winter
to
Soldier
me.
was like, what the hell was that?
This is boring.
And the reason that I liked Hawkeye so much was because it was a very straightforward story with
It's
characters
very
I liked.
straightforward.
That's what I'm saying,
You
Barry.
get
If this had been,
there's nothing wrong with giving you what you need to see.
if this had been much more straight, I now, this makes me appreciate Hawkeye even more. Okay, and it's I think these are being looked at as like vehicles, kind of artistic vehicles, and they need to be world building right now. They need to be putting characters on the board that we can work with. We need Kate Bishop and Yelena Belova, and we need on the exit of all these things, we need characters that we can take and move forward and do something with. And that's not clear that they did this.
Yeah, no. I WandaVision started out like, what the hell's going on? And then it was pretty well explained what the deal was. A little all over, a little out there.
No, I'm not saying it was...
Loki was like, what's going on?
It's more
do I
that,
care?
That, like I said, I was totally convinced there was some villain behind the whole thing. And it wasn't, it wasn't what we thought. This I'm just not... Like I said, it's...
Well, this had to be harder for you because this is one of your favorite characters. Like, Dave and I both went into this whatever.
I'm not disappointed with... I'm not hugely disappointed with it. I kind of feel like it's like I'm ready for 2 more episodes, And I don't dislike what they did with the character. I actually think they did, they did this a la carte thing and they picked and chose and done these things. But I feel like, wow, this was a great prologue. If they do nothing with this, they wasted a lot of time, including ours. And I think they were respectful of the character. I think what they did works on a certain level, but if this is all there is, that time was squandered. So, that said, I will still have a statue, 3 action figures, and a scarab and a blade thing. But, yeah. And, people actually know Moon Knight exists. So, whether they understand him or not. So,
True. Okay. That's that. Let us know what you thought. If you watched it. Let's go what's in the box.
Show you with the box. Who's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Regular Joe's What's in the Box.
Todd, what's in the box?
okay. In this...
3 Moon Knight action figures and 2
It is
statues.
not, but I'll be talking about that a year from now, probably. So, this is the biggest box that I have ever gotten from Eagle Moss. Okay,
Oh, it is big.
because it has the box I was just holding up for those of you who aren't seeing the video version of the podcast, which doesn't exist,
Which is everybody but the 3 of us.
18 by 5 by 10. It is the XL version of the Rocinante from
big.
The Expanse. It is
Wow,
big.
it is big.
And so I had to choose between the 8-inch version and the 12-inch version, and
Me
That's
too.
what she
Sometimes.
and it's just like I said, it's kind of too easy. So I actually wanted more detail, and I was assuming that there'd be more detail in this. And I think that the paint on this, Bear, I wish you could see it. It's really, really good stuff, and like some very, very fine lines in certain areas. There's little hatch covers with handles painted and different things like that. I don't think it's reading really well on the camera here, but really, really nicely done. And like I said, I like it. I guess it's big.
So wait, with this, do they make a small one, an 8-inch one, and a 12-inch one?
And a 12-inch one. This is
But
the
there's
XL
not a
version.
small one.
So not a small one. But it's cool. And like I said, the ship has got a ton of detail on it. All the little tiles you see really, really well. I can't imagine it's a whole lot different in the other scale one. But I'm not going to buy a bunch of ships from this show. But so like I said, this and maybe 1 or 2 others will represent it. And I'm pleased with it, but it's very cool, and
Yeah, I mean, I always like that ship. It's just it's very
big. What's the background color on this?
I don't know.
What do you think it is?
The background color on it?
The kind of
base
the base color.
It kind of looks like a gunmetal
I
gray.
thought this was black. It is a very, very deep brown.
Brown. Oh, so it looks gunmetal on camera.
It does. It really, really does. It reads as it when you look at it. I took it out of the box and I'm like, really? And then I looked it up, and that is what it is. It's a kind of brownish color, but I guess maybe it's meant to be like a kind of a rust thing. But yeah, very, very cool, and it comes in a stand because that's what they do. And yeah, I like it a lot. And again, I'll send some pictures to you guys. Like I said, there is some, like I said, detailing that it's just very, very hard to see holding it up. But
and it always moved so fast on screen that like it's not one of those
really
ships
does.
I feel like I know all the details of what it should look like.
I would say this is the Rocinante, I would buy a smaller version of the Tachi. I would buy a smaller version of the earlier version without all the build-ons and stuff like that, because I think that would be cool too, kind of the before and after. But I love this series, and I'm psyched to have this finally. And Eagle Moss, put a little more packing in your boxes, please. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, Dave, what do you got?
I have a box. I'm going to show you what the box is from.
Oh, my goodness.
Prop store.
Oh, and something Dave didn't tell us he bought?
Yeah, it wasn't... well, the funny thing is, I think I bought this on Friday, and it already came. So
wow.
I went to look at the Terminator Dark Fate auction. I had looked at it a while ago, and then I'm like, I'm going to go back and maybe see what stuff is going for. Let me see what the deal is. I think I looked at it like a week ago. Anyway, it was Friday. I'm like looking through stuff. I'm like, I'm going to bid on something. And if it's something like maybe I'll give you each one. And then I'm going through stuff. I'm like, there's just nothing here that's any good. So I'm like, so then it pops up to 50% off Star Wars stuff. I'm like, So let me scroll. So they have a whole, if you don't know Prop Store, obviously they do the auctions that we talk about. They have a buy it now sort of just stuff that's for sale. There are thousands and thousands of things on that. And I'm scrolling. Let me scroll through the Star Wars stuff. They're all on sale between the 4th and the 8th.
I never realized that.
Yeah. Like those, these things I have, these... they sell all those from a ton of movies. These were the first ones they did. Star Wars and Indiana Jones storyboards. They have them from every movie. And what they are is they're not the original drawings, but they're photocopies that were used on the set with notes and stuff. Anyway, so I saw something. I'm like, you want to know something? Instead of wasting my money on something from
Dark Fate
Terminator, I'm going to waste my money on something from The Empire Strikes Back. And I got one of the original crew patches from The Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, Now, I distinctly remember seeing this. So what I'm holding up is the Vader in Flames patch that you most prominently saw on the winter coats that everyone wore. And filming
all the
in Norway.
behind-the-scenes footage that we saw making that movie, we saw that patch on every jacket.
I remember reading Starlog and seeing that. I'm like, that is the coolest logo ever. I've always loved it. And then, so this is not, I guess, I mean, I trust Prop Store, so it is an original patch from the crew patch that they either gave or put on the jackets or whatever. So I'm like, that's my favorite movie, so I'm going to... And it's big. It's 5x3. So
that's nice.
That's very cool.
So I'm going to display that. So
that's impressive. It's hard. It's going to be hard for me to transition from that to what I've got to show.
But better than 3 pieces of special effects rebar that I was going to buy, and went for, I'm sure, more money, because I did go back on Sunday and like that stuff's, even the stuff that was at $100 wound up going for way more than $100. Anyway.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm so glad that I have the screen used things that I have from Star Trek. I don't need a piece of rebar from Dark Fate.
No, you don't.
Even though I've come around
either.
a little bit on Dark Fate, and it's not as bad as I thought it was, I don't need that.
I would have bought it as a goof if I could get 3 of them for $100.
We would have just pushed on that just so that you would have to have something in your home from Dark Fate. That would be...
Well, trust me, if I can get you something from Star Trek the Motion Picture, it's coming your way.
Hey... And I'll happily take it.
Anyway, well, that's not that. I wish I could get something from Star Trek.
Nothing, because they repurposed everything.
We need to. Brian's got to dig out those little hexagons he talked about. I need to see those.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm interested just to even see them.
Anyway,
all right,
Barry, what's in the box?
I will go next. So what I've got is a Holden McNeil action figure from the movie Chasing Amy. But what makes this one slightly more interesting is that it's signed by Ben Affleck.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah. So this is a figure from 2006. I don't collect these figures, but Kevin Smith put some of these up on his website, so I knew it was real. I knew where it was coming from, and I was able to grab one. So I don't have a Ben Affleck autograph. I've got everybody else from Mallrats. I've got a lot of other Kevin Smith autographs. I never had a Ben Affleck.
Very cool.
So Anyway, that's it. It's kind of not as cool as a Vader in Flames patch, but it's a real Ben Affleck autograph on there. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Look at that. Nice.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. I don't know what we're doing next week. Maybe Doctor Strange if we all get to it, but I don't know
I'm
what's
seeing
gonna
it this week, so we can do it next week if you get to see it.
I might see it again tomorrow night. So
Okay.
Which means he didn't hate it. We know that.
Don't
much.
say anything.
I'm just
I'm not
saying,
saying
if
anything.
he's seeing it again, it means he didn't
all
hate
I have
it.
talked about is the trailer. All I've talked about is the trailer for the
Crystal
other.
Sculling.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got to see if we got to deal with all this COVID scenario before I figure out what's going on. But anyway, so check all this stuff. Let us know what you think about all this stuff. Avatar, Picard, Moon Knight. If anyone really cares, let us know.
Yeah, if you were super excited about either Game of Whatever or Avatar, let us know. Cause
House of the Dragon.
We haven't met you yet.
Yeah, I'd like to know about that for sure. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.